reborn for the third time, Caden still died at 28. I unwillingly return, as usual, to meet and love, only for an unexpected change to occur. He began to use his poor mental state as an excuse to visit his psychologist multiple times. Until that day when I caught them kissing in the examination room, Caden scoffed and said, "You might think I'm crazy for saying this, but I actually died 3 times, each time right next to Ariana. Originally, I wanted to see how she would save me, but now that I think about it, it must be that she was too unlucky. If I keep my distance, won't I be living just fine?" I quietly stepped back. In his 4th rebirth, whether he is dead or alive is no longer my concern. I want to live my own life now. I cannot describe the feeling I had when I heard that statement. Caden was then bent down, buried in the nook of Nellie's neck, lifting her long hair to take a gentle sniff. Nellie is his psychologist. Caden has recently been saying that his mind is a bit confused and that he needs to see a doctor. I didn't expect it to be this way. The sight of the two of them being so intimate was painfully glaring, and in an instant, the rage of betrayal consumed all my reason. I could hardly restrain myself from rushing in to confront him, demanding to know why he would do such a thing. In 3 lifetimes, Caden's heart has always been with me. I firmly believed this, yet I did not expect the reality of the 4th life to hit me like a bolt from the blue. I was even somewhat incredulous, doubting whether I had misunderstood something. Then the one I love the most in my heart, the most affectionate and sincere Caden, spoke up. He glanced sideways, playfully toying with Nellie's long hair that was draped over his leg, and with a slight scoff, he spoke, "Nellie, do you think there's really something wrong with my head? But I feel that the deaths in the first 3 times didn't seem fake, the pain still lingers in my mind, leaving me with a sense of lingering fear." Nellie clutched her chest and, in a very affected manner, asked with concern, "What will you do then? You won't die again this time, will you?" Caden smiled slyly. "How could that be? Throughout the ages, I've accompanied Ariana in play, only to die by her side each time. Originally, I wanted to see how she would save me, but now that I think about it, it must be that she was too unlucky. If I keep my distance, won't I be living just fine? In this life, I have you, Dr. Nellie." His tone had a slight lilt, causing Nellie's face to flush as she playfully pouted, "Then you found the right person. In this lifetime, I'll take care of you." At that moment, the laughter of the men and women inside the door reached my ears, somewhat distorted as if separated by a barrier. Caden's voice replayed those few words in my ears, amplifying, causing my heart to constrict, a wave of suffocation washing over me. I leaned against the wall, gasping for breath. I can no longer remember how I got home that day. I only remember that when I sat down on the sofa, I felt as if I had lost all my strength. It was as if my spine had been pulled out, leaving me limp. This is no exaggeration. What supports me time and again is the obsession of saving 28-year-old Caden. He died in the 1st life when we loved each other the most. We had just obtained our marriage certificate, and he was driving me on a trip. In the car, I was still admiring the ring, saying I wanted to design a matching pair of earrings. Before he could finish his words, a runaway truck on the highway suddenly crashed into him with a bang. In that moment, time seemed to slow down. In my widened eyes, filled with shock, I clearly saw him lunging towards me, half of his body shielding me. In the end, I saw his eyes, bloodied and unable to close, filled with love and pain. I cried out in disbelief, my voice hoarse and tears streaming down my face. My mind was consumed by a single thought: no, Caden cannot die, we still have so much left to do. I want to start over, I want to save him. Suddenly, a voice seemed to echo in my mind, asking me, "Are you sure? Are you sure you don't want your future to go back and do something that might fail, to repeat and repeat?" I said yes. So I devoted my entire life, 2 lifetimes. Then this lifetime told me that he knows everything. He looked at me in such a disheveled and humble way, begging him to survive. He even said it was my bad luck, that I was the one who caused his death. When Caden returned, the night was already deep. I remained seated on the sofa, replaying in my mind where it all went wrong, when exactly he had changed his heart. Why aren't you turning on the light? What are you daydreaming about while sitting there? His tone was as gentle as ever, and he naturally leaned over to wrap his arm around my waist, as if what I had just seen was merely a dream. I instinctively dodged. The atmosphere was a bit stiff. A hint of indifference flickered in Caden's eyes, clearly indicating that he had noticed my unease. Yet, as if annoyed, he did not ask. I'm going to bed first, you should rest early too. That night I slept very poorly, even though Caden was right beside me, my mind kept flashing back to the scene of his death. In his first life, he died in a car accident, blood oozing from his body, soaking through my shirt. In the second life, we got married, and we didn't go on a honeymoon, so naturally, that car accident didn't happen. But the unexpected came in a ridiculous way. He came to pick me up after work, and a billboard suddenly fell from above, landing squarely on him. I watched helplessly as the tall man was crushed without a trace. It was as if heaven had destined him to die. I didn't believe it, so we came to the third life. In this world, I quit my job and got married, following him almost step by step, fearing that something unexpected would happen if he let his guard down. Thus, he safely arrived at the age of 28 without any major incidents. On his birthday, the candlelight illuminated his sparkling eyes, and in the glow, he confessed to me, his eyes glistening, "Ariana, it's so good to have you." My heart raced rapidly, and I could feel his smile fading more and more, his expression becoming increasingly dazed. A strong sense of unease nearly overwhelmed him. Then Caden spat out a mouthful of blood. Perhaps it was the long passage of time, or perhaps my heart was so flustered that it could not accommodate any other memories. I didn't remember the name of his illness, it seemed to be some very rare condition, and life just came to an abrupt halt, almost absurdly hasty. The last memory lingers in a pure white hospital room. In the deathly silence, only the instruments flashing with faint light beside his ear persistently emitted a dripping sound, as if draining away his last breath of life. I am unwilling, how can I be willing? I met Caden when we were young, at that time I was just a country bumpkin. Because I was relatively pretty and had an enviable talent for dancing, a few girls in the class began to target me, both intentionally and unintentionally. I endured and endured until the day they overturned my grandmother's pancake stall. In the midst of the chaos, I tearfully helped my grandmother up, while the girls, glamorous and elevated, laughed down at us with sharp voices. They call me Pancake Girl and tell me to roll back home and make pancakes. My grandmother is mute, she mumbles with her lips and gestures to wipe the grease off my body. This only makes them laugh even more. Then Caden appeared at that moment. He held up a camera and called the school leaders with a phone. He studies well, and his family has a bit of money, so he is considered quite impressive in our small town. It was an evening, and although the sky was still very gloomy, somehow, in that moment, the sunlight broke through the layers of haze and poured directly onto Caden. He extended his hand, the palm holding a clean and tidy handkerchief. The first thing he said was, "Sorry, I wanted to take evidence first, so I didn't come to help you right away." Until now, I still remember the beating of my heart that day. Intense and powerful, it sustained me as I traversed the countless worlds of his death alone. Until the second morning, I still felt a bit dazed. Caden got up at that moment, changed into the clothes I had ironed for him, and took a glance at me, who was setting breakfast at the dining table. "Aren't you going to the dance troupe anymore? Are you just going to stay at home like this? There's nothing for you to do at home, right?" The last few words he spoke were softer, filled with confusion. I paused my hand that was wiping the table and looked up at him. But I only saw him quickly avert his gaze and say, "You must be having breakfast at home, I won't eat any more. Don't see me off anymore, and don't come to pick me up in the evening. I'm going to see Dr. Nellie." He rubbed his brow at the right moment, his tone indifferent. If it were before, I would definitely have worried about his state, but now, I only feel a chill in my heart. He is about to turn 28 and is also about to get married to me. In previous lives, at this time I completely lost the mood to work and spent all day in fear and anxiety. So I simply resigned from the dance troupe and truly became a housewife. At that time, he thought I was working too hard and said with a smile, "Then don't go. Just dance for me alone in the future. With me here, what do you have to worry about?" I accompanied him to and from work, and he generously introduced me to his colleagues. With a showy gesture, he raised his hand to display our matching rings. Then now, he looked at me warily and coldly, telling me, "Stop staring at me all day, find something to do for yourself." I paused in my breath, and then came the loud bang of the door, plunging the room into an eerie silence. I sat at the table, mechanically picking at the breakfast in front of me. It still had some warmth, but it was unusually cold in my mouth. How could this happen? Ever since Caden started his treatment, it seems like the distance between us has gradually widened. He has begun to feel annoyed and reject my presence. Have we spent 3 lifetimes together, and now I've found true love? But saving Caden felt like a program set in my destiny. Suddenly asking me to give up was like losing the very center of my life. I feel like I should rush up and question him, asking if my efforts in previous lives are just a joke in his eyes. But why does he keep coming back to cooperate with me time and again? But I still pretended that nothing had happened. I watched as Caden gradually distanced himself from me, grew cold towards me, and as the conversations between us dwindled. Watching Nellie and him get closer and closer, even for several nights, he couldn't be bothered to pretend anymore and directly called Nellie from the balcony. In the darkness, even with a layer of glass between us, I could see the smile playing at the corners of Caden's mouth. One evening, I stubbornly sat at the dining table like a resentful wife, waiting for him to return. It was almost 9 o'clock, and after reheating the food countless times, Caden finally returned. But he wasn't alone, Nellie was with him. Nellie nodded at me in greeting, then naturally changed her shoes and entered the living room. "Don't get me wrong, Miss Ariana, I'm just here to help Mr. Caden with his treatment." Mr. Caden's description is that he is always troubled by past or non-existent memories, so I came to take a look at the home environment, which is actually a significant factor affecting the mind. She smiled gracefully, spoke professionally, and in front of me, completely lost the flirtatiousness she had when beside Caden, appearing quite dignified and proper. It even made me feel as if her ambiguity with Caden was merely my illusion. But the next second, when her gaze met Caden's, she revealed a smile full of meaning, carrying their unique understanding. "Throw away these few items, and redesign the layout of the sofa over here." Her red lips moved in and out, and by the end, I could no longer hear what she was saying. I could only see that the house that Caden and I had carefully arranged had been completely transformed by her. Her gaze became proud and provocative as she lifted her chin to look at me. One must always look forward, after all, let go of the old things. She took off a pendant and hung it at the entrance, her tone playful. "Mr. Caden, seeing something colorful before you go out will brighten your mood. This is our wedding house." I watched as the corners of Caden's mouth curved uncontrollably, reluctantly bidding farewell to Nellie, and then I trembled as I opened my lips to speak. "What's wrong?" he asked in confusion. "Our carefully designed wedding home, and you just brought another woman back here, casually disrupting our arrangement and leaving her marks?" "Ariana, Dr. Nellie is a professional. If things are unreasonable, they need to be changed. Am I just supposed to stay sick like this?" His tone was somewhat helpless, but I could sense a hint of impatience. "Stop getting stuck on the details. If you don't like the current arrangement, you can change it later according to your preferences." Bitterness surged in my throat. I took a deep breath and forced a smile as I spoke. "Caden, are we going to get our marriage certificate next month? Are you still going to marry me?" Caden frowned. "What are you making a fuss about? Just because Nellie came over to visit?" "Ariana, I think you're just too bored. If you have nothing to do, go find something to occupy yourself with. Don't just stare at me and let your mind wander, now you've said everything out loud." He wanted to say something else, but the next moment he was frozen in place. My tone was very and, "We're not getting married." Caden was momentarily taken aback, a hint of confusion in his eyes. "What did you say?" When he said this, his voice trembled slightly, sounding as if he were suppressing some joy. I suddenly thought of what he said in front of Nellie, she always clings to me, like bad luck always by my side. Do you think I can avoid trouble? My tears were frozen in my eyes, holding back from falling. Instead, a surge of grief and anger rushed to my head, my icy blood felt as if it had been ignited, and I silently smiled. What? You're quite pleased that I said I wouldn't get married? Caden, you wouldn't really be falling for someone else, would you? Are you eager to get rid of me? Realizing that I seemed to be joking with him, his expression suddenly changed, his face darkening frighteningly. Ariana, I think it's you who's having a problem, is this fun for you? No wonder I've been feeling off lately, it turns out I've been influenced by you. He looked down at me from a height, angrily threw down his coat, and went to sleep in the guest room. The living room fell silent again, but the sense of oppression lingered, refusing to dissipate. I looked up at the ceiling, and the tears that had been held back for so long did not retreat, instead, they surged forth, vying to escape. After that day, the relationship between Caden and me became even more strained. He began to openly seek out Nellie. Faced with my heart-wrenching question, he merely looked at me with a faint, mocking expression, then just give up on me. Don't get married, then. Your world doesn't revolve around just me. He was very calm, which made me seem like a madman. I was left speechless. I am unwilling to accept this. I have invested 4 lifetimes, my sunk cost is too great, so great that I lack the courage to give up everything I once had. I always thought I would wait a little longer, and then the day came when we received the certificate. The night before, he didn't come home, and the next day I stood at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau for a long time. After dialing an unknown number of times, someone finally answered on the other end. It was Nellie. Miss Ariana, Caden accompanied me for my birthday last night, drank a bit too much, and is still not sober. When I rushed over, Nellie opened the door for me. Inside the apartment, she was dressed lightly, leaning against the wall, exuding an indescribable charm. Following her gaze, I saw the man inside getting dressed. Today, I rarely put on makeup and styled my hair up. But at this moment, my hair is a mess, and I'm holding our documents in my hand, looking quite disheveled and ridiculous. Turning around to look at me, Caden, although somewhat surprised, did not lose his composure. Instead, he asked me, "What are you doing here?" Nellie thoughtfully closed the door for us. However, her gaze while watching the play was truly piercing, jarring the last few fragments of my reason to the brink of collapse. What am I here for, Caden, are you still awake? I was filled with anger and couldn't help but throw the documents down on the ground. You don't want to get married, just say it directly. There's no need to insult me like this. He was taken aback for a moment, then slowly picked it up with a smirk. I thought you already knew, but I didn't expect you to still be so relentless. He straightened his back, standing in front of me and looking down at me, as indifferent as if he were gazing at a stranger. Can't you tell? I want to break up with you. Reason was like a snapped thread. I stared wide-eyed, incredulously looking up at him. I tried to find a trace of the past in the person before me. But I failed. He sat lazily on the edge of the bed, leisurely watching my reaction. Caden, what does death feel like? After a long time, I heard my voice sounding terrifyingly hoarse. I didn't feel death, but it was close enough. That kind of pain was harder to endure than death. I was very tired, very exhausted, and I didn't even know why I was still holding on. Caden visibly stiffened. His pupils trembled uncontrollably. A moment of panic flashed across his face, and he lowered his eyes, unnaturally avoiding my gaze. He knows what I'm talking about, after all, he also has memories of 3 lifetimes. He said nothing, and I suddenly felt a deep sadness. It was as if a century of silence had passed. Do you think I'm not tired? Caden finally spoke up, having died 3 times, do you think I feel good? Every time I start over, I have held on to the thought that this time might be different, and I have walked the same path without hesitation. But time and again, I find myself repeating the same mistakes. Do you understand that feeling? By the 3rd time I was actually ready to give up. I really wanted to just die like this, why come back again? Ariana, I actually admire you quite a bit. Standing at the beginning, knowing the inevitable ending, and then looking back at the past from the end, don't you feel despair? No matter how hard you try, it cannot be changed. He choked back a sob, his eyes seeming to be veiled by a thin mist. Accept it. This is reality. Our story can only end there. I died at 28. What about you? Did your later years die with me? Let yourself go. With his last words, Nellie opened the door. The sunlight streamed in, as if guiding him toward a new life. He stepped forward without hesitation, walking toward Nellie. I struggled to take a step, watching Nellie standing next to him, perfectly matched. Miss Ariana, Caden said this strawberry tart is very delicious, so I specially bought an extra one to bring back for you. She handed over a beautifully packaged dessert. As soon as I looked, my hand instinctively recoiled as if shocked. That fear from the depths of my soul surged back, rendering me immobile. I used to really like eating strawberry tarts, and in my second life, Caden even learned to make them by hand. I just found his skills lacking, so I always went to the same shop to buy them. He got off work and went to the dessert shop across the street for me, and then the billboard fell from the sky, splattering strawberry jam everywhere. I will never forget that scene. From then on, I never touched strawberries again. The taste is great, you should try it again. Caden's voice was calm and light, as if all our past was here with him, blown away like a gust of wind. In the fourth generation, I did not arrive at Caden's 28th year. Caden took out all his things. As he dragged the suitcase outside, he was as indifferent as an outsider. He even destroyed our photos one by one. As I watched him expressionlessly throw everything that once held countless memories of us into the trash can, a suffocating feeling, as if my heart was being tightly gripped and choked, overwhelmed me completely. The house is yours, just like that. Caden left, without a trace of nostalgia. The strawberry tart was still on the table, the bright red strawberry jam like blood. I expressionlessly stuffed it into my mouth, the familiar taste flooding my entire oral cavity, seemingly mixed with an indescribable metallic tang. Until the end, I swallowed it with great difficulty. By the time I came to my senses, my face was already streaming with tears. The abrupt ringing of the phone suddenly echoed, and I picked it up. On the other end was the principal dancer of the company. Ariana, we have a role missing in our new production. We've been searching for a long time and haven't found anyone suitable. Can you come and help us out? I was taken aback for a moment and said then added, I can come today. Are you still rehearsing at the usual place? After receiving a positive response from the other side, I rubbed my brow and headed straight for my destination. If Caden is the most important thing in my life, then dance is the second. In my first life, encouraged by Caden, I participated in the art examination and successfully joined a local dance troupe after graduation. In the following several lifetimes, I continued along the same path as before. But my dance career always came to a halt at this moment. Because of Caden's death. I must cast aside everything else in my life and face the insurmountable mountain of life and death with all my strength. Now that I think about it, since Caden doesn't need me, should I return to my own path? But in reality, the effect was very poor. When I stood on the dance floor again, following the music, I found it hard to regain that feeling. After I missed the beat once again, the teacher looked at me and shook her head, letting out a soft sigh. Ariana, why don't you take a moment to adjust your state over there? As the song ended, the members scattered to rest, but I stood by in a daze. Once, I was the proud disciple of my teacher, young yet possessing an extraordinary talent. She once praised me, saying that I was the center just by standing there. But now, I feel like I am trapped in a predicament, unable to find a way out. Teacher, how long do we need to rehearse for this performance? 2 months later. When I got the answer, I was taken aback for a moment, because when I calculated it, the day of the premiere happened to be Caden's 28th birthday. In the several lifetimes when I was doing everything I could to evade death for Caden, the dance troupe perfectly completed its premiere without me. Actually, it would be fine if I didn't participate. After all, they haven't come to find me in the previous few lifetimes. As I thought about it, I was about to back out. But when the music started playing, and I saw everyone arranging their expressions and fully immersing themselves, the thought of giving up felt like it was stuck in my throat, unable to come out. The moment I walked out of the dance studio, I immediately booked a plane ticket. The destination is a small town in the southwest, where the dance has integrated the local ethnic characteristics. I haven't returned to the dance troupe for so long that I can no longer keep up with the pace. The teacher is very supportive. You should go study and take a break, that would be nice too. The wind blowing towards me lifts my long hair, and I let out a long sigh, suddenly smiling in relief. It's time to let go. I have my own 28 years. I have my own life. When I returned from out of town, nearly a month had already passed. This past month, I have been weaving through the mountains and forests, working and chatting with the local grandmothers. When we are happy, we dance in the evening facing the setting sun. The men, women, and children of their ethnicity all possess a unique talent for dance. There is no technique, yet it embodies an indescribable freedom and exuberance. There was no music, everyone hummed a tune. They tapped and knocked on the baskets beside them. The incomprehensible dialect and sunlight surround me, smoothing out my wounded and hollow heart. Upon returning to my homeland, the teacher came to pick me up. Seeing me smile so easily, she also broke into a smile. There's a performance by the dance troupe tonight, why don't you come and see? I smiled and said okay, preparing to go home to change my clothes. To my surprise, just as I arrived at my doorstep, I looked up and saw Caden leaning against the door. Beside him was Nellie, with her arm linked through his. Seeing me, Nellie walked over enthusiastically, her face beaming with a smile. Ariana, are you going out to have some fun? My gaze, however, couldn't help but drift towards Caden. But he skillfully avoided it. My heart trembled violently, and I forced a smile as I turned to look at Nellie. Do you have something to discuss? Oh, it's like this. Caden said something fell here and he came to pick it up. We just got our marriage certificate today and thought we might as well come and share the good news. The wedding isn't set yet, but you absolutely have to come. Nellie smiled brightly, her ring reflecting dazzling light in the sunlight. I felt a moment of daze, unable to articulate what I was feeling. After opening the door and letting someone in, Caden went to look for something, and Nellie just sat in front of me, talking about how Caden was. I looked at the happiness radiating from her face and felt a slight tightness in my chest. They are making progress quickly, Caden really can't wait to shake me off. What about the pair of bracelets we bought after the college entrance exam? Caden suddenly spoke up, leaving me momentarily stunned. I instinctively pulled my hands into my clothes, not wanting him to notice that I was actually wearing those 2 bracelets on my wrists. After the college entrance examination, he worked a summer job for 2 months, waking up early and working late, just to put a bracelet on my wrist when I started school. Later, when we had money, he began to put more expensive jewelry on my hands. Those 2 pieces I had set aside. It was a somewhat famous affordable luxury brand, not too expensive when purchased, but now it has become a sought-after collectible that is hard to come by. Nellie quite likes it, just give me mine back. The smile on my face was starting to falter. When did Caden become such an undignified person? For his current girlfriend, he actually had the nerve to come to his ex-girlfriend to ask for his things back. I also feel quite undignified, foolishly treating these 2 bracelets as treasures and hiding them on my wrist. When I was lost in thought, Caden had actually already noticed. He stepped forward, unceremoniously pinching my little arm, and then revealed my fair wrist. Nellie exclaimed from the side, so it turns out it's on Ariana's hand, and she even has 2. Caden, maybe Ariana really likes it, so I'll just let it go. I'll leave it to her. At that moment, I felt as if I were completely stripped bare. Caden's slightly mocking gaze, Nellie's sympathetic yet triumphant smile, all cut through my flesh like sharp knives. Ariana, you still can't let go, can you? You love like this. Caden scoffed and spoke. A surge of grief and anger filled my heart as I forcefully shook off Caden's hand. In that moment, I realized that the person before me was no longer the Caden who once loved me. I let out a relieved smile, unfastened the clasp on the bracelet, and tossed both pieces into the trash can. Sorry, you're overthinking it. It's just because they're expensive, can't I pretend to be rich for a moment? However, when there are too many people I like, it becomes disgusting. I have never liked sharing with others. If you want it, then go pick it up. That day, Caden walked away angrily with Nellie in his arms, and before leaving, he didn't forget to humiliate me. Without me, you better not think about not being able to live. This time, don't let it be you who dies first. I no longer have any attachment to him and retorted without any politeness, there's still a month left, so say a proper goodbye to your wife, don't wait until it's too late to leave a last word. Looking at his back, I decisively picked up the garbage bag and tossed it into the large trash bin at the door, in one go. Now, it's good, there will be no trace of him left in the house. I looked around and thought that I might as well change the arrangement of the house in a couple of days. In the evening, I went to see a dance drama. My colleagues on stage saw me and smiled at me. After one performance ended, I realized that I was already in tears. On the way to the backstage to offer flowers, I suddenly heard the sound of sobbing. When I looked, it seemed to be a mother and daughter. A little girl was crying, and her mother was beside her, comforting her. It's okay, Jenny, we'll come back next time, your sister will definitely return. I was standing there, at a loss, when the little girl suddenly looked up and met my gaze. In the next moment, an extraordinary light burst forth in her eyes as she stared at me in disbelief. Sister Ariana. When I came to my senses, she had already run in front of me. Oh, you are. You must be Ariana. My daughter is your little fan. She hasn't seen you at the dance troupe performances lately and is quite worried about you. She insisted on coming backstage to see you again. Since this child saw your performance 3 years ago, they insisted on learning dance, saying they want to share the stage with you in the future. Her mother's words struck my heart like a stone, sending ripples of emotion spreading outwards. The girl shyly stole a glance at me, her round face flushed with excitement. The girl's mother warmly pulled us together for a photo. Before leaving, the girl tugged at my sleeve and asked cautiously, Sister, is something wrong? Why haven't I seen your performance in a long time? Sister will keep jumping down, right? Jenny will always be there with her sister. I was taken aback for a moment, not knowing why my eyes felt a bit moist. I bent down to touch her head and nodded seriously, yes, there will be an elder sister's performance next month, Jenny, remember to come and watch. I looked at the little girl with wide eyes, filled with uncontrollable joy, and smiled back at her. She skipped away, and I didn't know when the teacher had stood by my side. Have you found your state? I nodded slightly and softly said, Time passed quickly, and I was completely immersed in rehearsals, not realizing when the day of the premiere had arrived. When I woke up in the morning, an alarm clock I had never set suddenly rang out abruptly. I was confused as I was about to close it, only to find it was a calendar reminder. It was then that I realized today is also Caden's 28th birthday. The alarm clock recorded that there were 12 hours left since he last discovered the illness. I suddenly felt a bit dazed, unable to help but wonder, will he die in this life? Is it really because of me that he keeps dying over and over again? If he's not dead, I will bless him. If he is dead, then. Time didn't allow me to think too much, as the teacher's call had already come through, reminding us, this is the final rehearsal, and we must leave no room for error. Time passed quickly, and before long, it was evening. 7 o'clock was our performance time, and it was also the time when the incident occurred in my previous life. My heart was racing, not knowing what I was so nervous about. The teacher asked the members to take a break first, to adjust their mindset, and prepare for the stage in an hour. I stepped outside to feel the breeze. At that moment, my phone rang suddenly, sharp and jarring. I quickly answered, only to realize it was Caden calling. Ariana, if I die, will you be sad? There is still an hour left. The previous 2 deaths occurred before his birthday, sudden and unexpected. It was only on the 3rd time on his birthday that he discovered the anomaly, which gave me a little time to say goodbye. I was stunned. In fact, I really wanted to say freely, "No, aren't you going to die anyway, whether you're with me or with Nellie," to mock his infidelity. I was about to say something, but I just sighed softly, "Perhaps. If I die, will you start over?" He asked again. Perhaps because of the screen between us, I couldn't discern his emotions on the other end. His voice was a bit hoarse, distorted as it reached my ears. This time I did not hesitate and replied firmly, "No. If he dies this time, it will only prove that all my previous efforts were in vain. Fate is set, and there's no way to change it. I will no longer entertain the thought of starting over." He was silent for a while, and when he spoke again, his voice was very faint, "All right. I wish you a successful performance." At the moment I hung up the phone, a surge of inexplicable emotions flooded my heart. But most of all, it seems to be just a kind of sadness. A sadness that, no matter how many times it cycles, cannot escape fate. I walked backstage, where the actors had already begun to apply makeup and change costumes. I also gathered my emotions, preparing to face the performance ahead. At 7 o'clock, everything restarts. I stood on the long-lost stage, gazing at the audience filled below, took a deep breath, and slowly raised my hand. The music transitioned from fast to slow, and then came to a stop. At the end of the piece, I made no mistakes. At the moment the lights illuminated me completely, I saw Jenny's uplifted face in the audience, filled with such happiness and joy, just like the countless times I had looked at the dancers on stage as an audience member. Since then, the seeds of dreams have actually been sown in my heart. Today, it has finally blossomed and borne fruit once more. I am reborn. As I stepped off the stage, the teacher behind the curtain presented me with flowers, wiping away a tear. "Ariana, you truly are the one I believe in. To be honest, I was worried before, with you not practicing for so long, I wondered if you would keep up. But your boyfriend came to me and assured me that you would be just fine, insisting again and again. Oh, by the way, why didn't he come to present flowers today for the premiere?" I paused for a moment and instinctively asked, "Wait, has Caden contacted you?" "Yeah, I didn't want to look for you at that time. You also said it was a withdrawal from the group, not a vacation. What would it mean to call you out again?" "It was little Caden who came to find me personally, saying he wanted to ask for another chance for you, saying you acted impulsively and didn't think it through. I think it's a pity for you too, you might be too embarrassed to come find me again, so I took the initiative to call you." She chattered on, but my mind was a blank. So, this opportunity was fought for me by Caden? But why would he do that? The memories of the 4th generation are truly chaotic and mixed, overwhelming me like a tidal wave, making my head feel like it's about to explode. I seem to have forgotten something very important, but what could it be? The phone beside me suddenly pulled me back to reality, and on the other end was Nellie's voice, calm to the point of being frightening. "Caden is dead." When I rushed over, Nellie said he wanted to see me one last time, so he held on without dying. I find this statement very ridiculous, with a sense of absurdity that does not align with reality. I wandered into his hospital room, as pure and tidy as the third world, like heaven. He lay on the white hospital bed, his face bearing a strange tranquility. Seeing me, he looked in a good mood. "This time you didn't cry." "Quite calm, actually." "Anyway, you're going to die anyway. After dying so many times, you should be used to it." My voice was, and at the moment I said it, I actually found it hard to believe. It was like a massive stone that had once weighed heavily on my heart, crumbling away without me even realizing it. He didn't close his eyes, staring intently into mine. "Are you really just going to watch me die like this? You won't come back?" Then why are you still here?" he asked me with a smile. In an instant, everything beside me began to blur and fade away, like a dream on the verge of awakening. The fabricated illusion started to twist. Only Caden's face remained clear. His smile was faint, as if it were about to vanish at any moment. Ariana, you shouldn't be here. You should go back. Back to your life, back to your stage, back to your 28 years. I am dead. You said you let go. The whole world fell silent. Only his voice, incredibly clear, pierced my heart like a sharp sword. Pierced through the 3 lives I built on self-deception. Oh, I remember now. There is no cycle at all, it is just that, because of love, he accompanied me through 2 lifetimes, and because of love, he had to force me to face reality. It is me, trapped in his death, unable to escape. Nellie's perspective. My name is Nellie. I am a psychological counselor. At the beginning of the year, I met a guest, a gentle and polite noblewoman. Although she didn't seem to be in great shape, it was clear that she wasn't at the level that required my help. As I had imagined, she took me to meet a real guest. A 28-year-old woman. This is my daughter-in-law. She and my son were in a car accident during a road trip, and my son died on the spot. The noblewoman choked back a sob. She had been unconscious for 2 days, and when she woke up, her mental state had changed to this. I turned my head to look at the woman sitting on the sofa. She was beautiful, with a tall figure and graceful posture. The noblewoman said she had once been a dancer, and I chuckled softly, saying it was evident. She sat quietly, playing with the 2 intertwined bracelets on her wrist. Her name is Ariana, and you can call her Ariana as well. I nodded, tentatively trying to engage her in conversation. But she said nothing, only turned to look at me, her gaze unfocused, as if there were a world separating us. She always sleeps, and the time she is awake during the day is very little. The noblewoman sighed, her eyes already rimmed with red. Please, help us. At first, I confidently took on this task. After a few days of interaction, I found that Ariana was a very gentle person. Sometimes when I spoke, she would quietly listen. But just as I was about to proceed with the treatment, I found myself in a dilemma. Although Ariana is indifferent and unconcerned about everything in the outside world, she reacts strongly to anything related to Caden. For example, I suggested changing the arrangement of her room, adding some bright colors, and I also said we should try to minimize Caden's presence, even though he was already dead. Keep her away from things like his. Otherwise, it will be a repeated provocation. Caden's mother, despite being heartbroken, knew that one must always look forward, and she did everything accordingly. However, Ariana reacted very strongly to everything, looking at me with an immense anger as if she were staring at an enemy. She even spoke for the first time, saying that I was the third party intruding into her world with Caden. I was somewhat taken aback. I admit that perhaps I was a bit too hasty, and when my gaze fell on her wrist, her reaction was even more pronounced. She tightly covered the 2 bracelets, as if afraid I would take away the last thing Caden had left her. Caden's mother wiped her tears beside me. For the first time, I felt utterly at a loss. I had underestimated her feelings for Caden. A few days later, I chose another treatment plan, hypnosis. I asked Caden's mother for some details about their past, and learned more about Ariana's history. If it weren't for that car accident, our whole family would have happily gone to see the premiere of her new dance drama. That day was originally Caden's birthday. He had planned to watch a performance together first, and then take us out to celebrate. He said he loved watching Ariana dance the most. The world is full of uncertainties. Perhaps the living can only find redemption by facing the departure of the dead. My treatment is merely a trivial guidance. I want to give her some positive suggestions while her subconscious is relaxed. However, I made a mistake. My patient had fallen into a deep sleep, a state that was now beyond my control. But her demeanor did not seem to reflect any pain. Forget it, let her sleep for a while. I thought to myself, and then quietly sat by her side waiting for the whole afternoon. During that time, I even considered giving up on this patient and refunding all the fees. Their feelings were too deep. How can I help the person who lost their beloved to bravely accept the truth? The deceased probably had to stand right in front of her and tell her to wake up, to accept reality, to come to her senses. Only then might it be possible. A ridiculous thought popped into my mind, but I quickly suppressed it. Because the Ariana in front of me slowly opened her eyes. The first words she spoke were, "I'm back." A world without Caden, yet there is her 28 years, her second half of life. Perhaps the meaning of the cycle lies not in resurrecting the dead, but in allowing the living to find peace.